Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to talk about The Legends of Vox Machina, Season 1, Episode 1, and I'm going to tell you the best moment in Vox Machina Amazon Prime, Season 1, Episode 1. Spoilers for all of Legends of Vox Machina Amazon Prime in this content. So let's jump right off. Let me tell you the best moment in Season 1, Episode 1 of Vox Machina Amazon Prime, which is distinct from Vox Machina Web, which is the show that's already been aired literally millions of times, which was on Twitch and on YouTube and on a ton of podcasts, right? So Legends of Vox Machina Amazon Prime is this really unique, incredibly special, wonderful thing, and it is really quite. It's like, this is a huge event. I can't stress how big a deal for Dungeons and Dragons this is. This is the number one dungeon master in the world, doing his next huge accomplishment. Matthew Mercer's first huge accomplishment was the success of Critical Role overall, and he became the number one streamed Dungeons and Dragons game in the world, bar none. The numbers are so shockingly, nobody's even close, right? It's crazy how far ahead he is. Then he became the only Dungeons and Dragons streamer in the world to have two official Dungeons and Dragons books, right? Like Explorer's Guide to Wildemount and Call to Netherdeep. It's not out yet, but it's literally in the supply chain, so I think we can count it. It's astounding what he's accomplished. It is truly incredible. It's unprecedented. And I'll tell you right now, I am I'm so giddy about watching each one of these Legends of Vox Machinas, because, I know that this is going to connect. There's no question. This is going to connect. There is a question. Does this connect tens of thousands of new Dungeons and Dragons players, hundreds of thousands, or low millions? That's a great question to be asking, right? But we know this is going to bring new players to Dungeons & Dragons. There's no question about it, right? Which is fantastic. I'm so joyous over this situation. So what is the best thing that happens in Season 1, Episode 1? Well, it's the moment that Trinket comes onto the screen. So let's talk about Trinket. Who is Trinket? What is Trinket, okay? So first of all, we have to talk about Vex'ahlia, all right? So Vex'ahlia is a half-elf ranger, okay? She is the sister of Vax, half-elf rogue, okay? And Vex is functionally the leader of Vox Machina. She's the most stable, most intelligent, most capable, right? And the most willing to finish quests, right? She's the most willing and the most capable. And Vox Machina is, typical, Matthew Mercer is not a Gen Z or a millennial, but he's smart enough to play one on Amazon, on the web, and on Amazon Prime. And one thing that I think is an absolute staple of Gen Z and millennial behavior is they absolutely are allergic to authority, right? They very much struggle with the idea of, master servant, right? Like this is the person who says what's get done. This is the person who does it, right? If there's any hierarchy, any authority, Gen Zs and millennials start itching, right? And you could see this. This is just my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong here, right? But one of the things is, you could tell Gen Zs and millennials are incredibly hesitant to step into any authority position, right? And I think one of the reasons why is they know the moment you're the man, right, air quotes, right, every dagger and arrow is coming your way, right? And none of them want to deal with it. They just don't, right? And they've just, a good example of this is it's what's happened in our politics, right? Our presidents are just horrible, monster people, right? Routinely. We had one in the 90s, and then we had one again between 2016 and 2020, right? Just monstrous, horrible human beings, right? And these are the leaders, right? And so Gen Z and Millennial are done with leadership, hierarchy, authority. They're finished with it, right? And so basically, Vex is absolutely the leader of Vox Machina, but she's never ever attaches that to herself, right? And none of the people, they all follow her, but they won't say she's a leader. It's really incredible. But Vex is the leader of Vox Machina. That's a fact, in my humble opinion. Okay. Then Vex, as a ranger, gets an animal companion. Trinket is Vex's animal companion, right? So, what is Trinket? Trinket is an armored bear. An armored bear, right? That is a woo doggy. Like, that is the whole ball of wax, and that's like, I win the animal companion contest. Done. Right? Like, this is like, that's the best animal companion I think we've ever seen in any public Dungeons and Dragons display, right? Like, your animal companion is a cute, cuddly, absolutely ferocious wrecking machine, right? Like, all in one, right? Trinket is amazestones. He is so cool, right? And every time he's on the screen, there's a fight there's a tavern fight in episode 1, and we get to see Trinket just go to town. Bite, claw, right? I'm sorry, bite, claw, right? And he's a beast, right? And so if you have ever run an animal companion, right? If you've ever run a ranger, or if you've ever run a druid, right? You have just crawled over every page of the monster manual in the beast section, right? And you very fundamentally know the difference between a monster and a beast. They're very different, right? They have different stat blocks, they function in different ways, right? And if you are a ranger, or if you are a druid, one of the things I love about those classes is they give you, as a player, the absolute unquestioned right to have the monster manual in your hand at all times, right? I know some dungeon masters who are petty and small and shriveled in their soul and vision and say that's wrong and take books out of their players' hands, but at my table, when you are first of all, I want all books to be in everybody's hands at all times. But there is this question of, oh, hey, can I look up the Blue Dragon's ancient stat block now that we're fighting them, right? Like, and a lot of DMs are like, I'm weak and shriveled and really don't understand the power of dungeon mastering, so the answer's no. Or like, and like, you're like, okay, thanks, right? But so for a lot of dungeon masters, you need permission to get the monster manual. And it's hard for a dungeon master, especially for a druid, forget it. Like, you got to be constantly thinking, what person can... And so no dungeon master worth his salt is going to say, well, you're a druid and you need to know every beast in the book and you need to look at their stats absolutely constantly, but I'm not going to disallow it, right? So basically, Trinket is like a memory for anyone who's ever played Dungeons & Dragons with a fair and reasonable dungeon master who allowed the monster manual to be in their hands, because they quite literally needed it, right? Like, they need to know the stats on their creature. They're in the woods. There's no reason in the world that the monster manual should be out of the hands of the ranger or the druid. Honestly, I don't think there's any reason for any player. I think you should let every player open every book at every moment of the game. But I know that's a highly controversial. But the idea that you would keep the monster manual from a druid or a ranger, that you are just the most petty human at that point, in my opinion, and have no business in the Dungeons and Dragons, in the Dungeon Master game, right? Like, that's just completely unreasonable, right? So when we see Trinket, we're like, oh my gosh, I remember all those times as a player that I spent just poring over the monster manual, right? And it's incredible, right? So when you see Trinket, it's really incredible to see Trinket on the screen, because he is so wonderful and powerful and dangerous, right? And Trinket is incredible. Like, every time he's on the screen, you're like, oh my gosh, this show is better. And there's no character that is like that, right? Trinket is the only character where you're like, every time he's on screen, the quality, the joy, everything about the show just spikes, right? So I really think that the best moment in season 1, episode 1 of the Dungeons and Dragons tale, Legends of Vox Machina, Amazon Prime, is when Trinket is introduced as as Vex's very powerful, very important, very cuddly, very lovable animal companion. That's my opinion. What do you think the best moment in Dungeons and Dragons Season 1, Episode 1 is? I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear that. Thanks for letting me share this with you. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.